Now in this next video we're going to focus on building the function, and before I created this video I went on and put the code together, and what I'm going to do is explain the process on what I took to get the information that I'm collecting, in this case out of a web page that is a product title, the item price, and the availability based on the given item number you give to the program. So I have this already set into a call function. All we do is we go to item by item number, and the item number in this case is T1017, or I should say product ID. And what I'm going to take time doing is explaining the code on how I capture this data. So to get started, the code has remained the same from the previous videos. We open up the web browser, we go to the web page, but like in the previous video I showed how we're going to use a query string to go to the product number. We wait for the page to load. Once the page loads, then we're going to get into the parsing. So this is where the code that I've added. And yeah, I'm getting the entire screen. So let me explain what I'm doing here. And to explain, I'm going to cut my code short. The very first thing I do is I look for form product, and let me explain how I went about doing this. I'm going to open up a notepad, and I'm going to, before I even parse any HTML code, I'm going to show you the raw code itself. Let me go back to my user form so I can hit F5 and play. So I'm going to call this function, and that way I have the code. I'm going to put it into a notepad, and let me explain to you what my process was for parsing the data. I know I want the product title, so the very first thing I do is I copy the title and I go to the source code and I look for it, and I look to see where it's designed into the HTML code, like where we can actually see it. And if I hit find next, I see that that's one place on the input name, and sometimes the product image will have the title, so I check to see if it exists there, and it actually existed somewhere else, and we have that one right there. And then we have the image itself, the product title is there, and so we see it in 3 different places, so we can actually pull it and extract it from 3 different places. I chose to extract it from the image border. Well, the actual image itself, that's just the image tag, that's just the border is equal to 0. It's just an attribute that they added so that there isn't border on the image. But I thought this would probably be the best one to extract because it gives me a starting point, image border 0, and it gives me an endpoint where at the very end of the product title I have just a single quote and then space and then src. So it would be very easy to pull this data using the instr and the mid function. So the first thing that I'm going to do though is remove everything from form product going up. I'm going to erase all that, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to first look for the form product string, and then I'm going to use the instr function to do that, and then I'll use the mid function to remove everything from the beginning before this string. So let me go on and go back to the Visual Basic environment, show you how that worked. So we first set a variable, the HTML to parse is equal to object ie.document.body.enter HTML. All we're doing is putting the HTML into a variable so that we can work with it. We can now erase this. This is what we just used right now. We put the code into the text box, so we're not going to use that anymore. From here I'm just going to explain what we're doing. I'm going to hit the stop button, and that way I can make sure you can see all the code. I'm going to collapse this over here. So the very first thing I do is I put an if statement, and I use instr to give me the position of the form product, and all I'm saying is if this string does exist, if it's greater than 0, the position is greater than 0, then that means it does exist. then let's get started and extract the data. These first two lines of code, all we're doing is we're looking at the form product string, and then we're just truncating to that point going forward. And then I just went one step further, and I just went to truncate to this string. And if I look for it, all you'll see is that I'm just removing from here going up, I'm removing that. So that way, because my original intention was to use this title, but I figured it's going to be much easier to pull it from the image tag. But that being said, I do remove all of the characters from this line going up. It's removed. I mean, I do keep this line in here, but everything above that is gone. So here's the product title parse. This is where we get the product title. So now that we're setting the HTML to parse variable, like we're using that over and over, the first thing that we look for is image border equals, and if you know, you can't put another double quote inside another double quote. It is possible, but in this case, to keep it easier, it's better just to use char34. Char34 is the double quote. So all I'm putting is my starting position is all of this right here in the MID function. So what we're looking for is the image border equals to, we're looking for character 34, and then the 0, character 34 again, and then the alt equals, and then the single quote. All that is, let me just show you in the HTML code. Just need to find the tag. It's just all of this right here. What I wrote here in Visual Basic, this from this double quote going to the very end alt period, is just this code right here. And then that's 20 characters in length. So we add 1. So I put 21. That way we know exactly where to start. That's going to put me right to where it says bulk wholesale, which is the product title. Once we have that, then our starting position is going to be 1. And notice what I did is I put product title is equal to instead of using the HTML to parse variable. And the reason why I create a new variable here is because we're going to need to continue to use the HTML to parse variable for the availability and for the price. And if we cut the code so that we only have the product title, we're not going to have anything else to work with. So we create a new variable, product title, start at position 1, and what we're going to look for is the very last single quote just right here. That's what we're going to look for. And we're going to, once we find that position, we're just going to subtract 1. That way we don't have the single quote, and that's going to give us our product title. So just to give you that demonstration, I'm going to put userform1.textbox5.text is equal to, and I'm just going to put the product title and exit function. So let me just go on and play this. I'm going to do call function, and we'll look at the text box. We do see that the product title was extracted. So I do the exact same thing for the availability and for the price, but the only difference is with the availability was much easier because all I have to do is truncate to the availability and the non-breaking space. All I need to do is just find that string. Once I find it, just erase that and then look for the closing p tag, and you'll see that's what I looked for, the closing p tag. On sale price was very similar, but it was closed by table down tag. So, and then the next thing that I did is I used the replace function to replace any spaces, character 13, character 10, or 9. This is pretty much return line feeds, and then character 9 is a tab. So that way the item price is completely clean. The reason why I don't do this with the availability or the product titles because the product title may have spaces in it. So now that we have our product title, we have our item availability, and we have our item price, the very next thing we need to do is just return that information back to the user. So at the very top of my function, I'm going to create 3 variables. Actually, let me just make sure I said that right. Price, availability, and product title. I'm going to do 3 variables, and I'm just going to call them as strings, although the price you could use a double, but I'm going to use strings on all 3. So I'm going to put product title as string. And then I'll just put available as string, and then item price as string. At the very beginning of the function, you always want to clear these out. We can now erase this code that I had up here. We can put product title is equal to nothing, available is equal to nothing, and then item price is equal to nothing. But at the very end of the function, we're going to return that information. Product title is equal to, and this should really be in our end if, although it really wouldn't make an impact in Visual Basic. Visual Basic is not that picky. We'll put product title. I'm going to call this the product title. That way it's a different variable name. Product title is equal to the product title. And then I'll put the item available is equal to, well, available is equal to the item available. And then I'm going to change this to the item price. I know this might be a little bit confusing. When it comes time to you doing the code, you can just rename your variables. But I'll put the item price is equal to item price. But now, what this is going to do is allow us to easily call the function with the variables already set, but we do have to declare the variables. I'm just going to put dim var1 as string, and I'm just going to put var2 and var3. And I'm just going to put var1, var2, and var3. I'm just doing this to make it quicker because I'm running out of time. I'm going to put call. And let me just show you what this is going to do. I'm going to do message box var1, var2, and var3. And I'm just going to play this so you can see what this is going to do. So let me play this code out, call the function. So now we should get 3 message boxes with the data that we're looking for. There's the product title. There is the availability. That's supposed to say in stock, but I need to fix that string. And then we're lastly going to have the price. So I didn't realize that I made a slight mistake on the item availability, and that shouldn't be too difficult to fix. I shouldn't have the -4. That should actually be just like that, and we'll hit play. I'll just try this out. So now we have in stock. So I need to take off 1. So just one last fix, and this will be perfect. So this should be -1. So you can see when working with strings, sometimes you just have to go about it over and over, unless you're really great at math. I mean, I'm good at math, but not incredible. So let me do this again. And now it says in stock. And now we have the price. So that completes this video for building the function. I mean, it was a little time consuming, but now all you have to do is you can just call this line over and over and over with different product numbers, and you'll be able to capture the variable. There still is a little bit more tweaking that we need to do to the function, but I'm going to cover that in the next video for showing you how to create a loop for your function.